My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. The men in red getting over the line, but you could see they huffed and puffed their way. It was almost as if they were crawling towards, they were in the middle of the desert, crawling towards a mirage, and they finally got there and realized, no, this is not a mirage, it's real. We've won, we've got over the line, and memories of the earlier victory or the earlier lack of victory have been erased. 167 for 5 with an over to spare. Looks as if it was comfortable, but trust me, it wasn't comfortable at all, given the fact that 5 down meant they were in alien territory as far as that middle order was concerned. Still in the company of Lisa Sthalekar and Joy Bhattacharjya. Lisa, for those who did have the memory of the previous game between these two sides, they'll know it was a hard-earned win.
Oh, it was a hard-earned win, and the fact that they did it without their skipper scoring the bulk of the runs, which he has done for the majority of this tournament, will give them confidence going forward. But boy, today, as soon as Maxwell got out, I was like, uh-oh, are we going down to the wire again? Surely they can't stuff up another game.
Joy, I mean, Glenn Maxwell, you pointed it out, 13 was his highest score till then. He must have felt, ooh, I haven't scored runs in this tournament, I've got to stay. He didn't stay till the end, but he did enough.
I think he did enough. And I think he went out, I literally think he went out to KKR Rahul and told him, mate, trust me for one more match. Give me a ball, give me something. I will do something for you. I know, knowing Maxwell as a personality, he is that kind of guy who will say, give me a chance, I'll try and do something for you. And I think he did enough. He couldn't finish it. He would have liked to finish it. I think that second shot was unnecessary. But look, they got over the line. It'll all be forgotten. I think the biggest enemy or the biggest, toughest opposition Kings 11 have is Kings 11 themselves. Their previous record, the kind of number of times they've stuffed up. So this will be really important to them. And look here also, the way Puran ran, the way every time they thought they were getting away with the match, somebody lost a wicket. Somehow they managed to keep Delhi Capitals in the game, though they shouldn't have ever in this game. And because we have so little faith in them, even to the end, we were still saying, no, wait, something could happen now.
Yeah, I mean, I was putting it on our group, discussion group that we have. I said, no, I'm calling this Delhi's way, just thinking that it just looked as if something could possibly happen, but it didn't. And I think there was a couple of small factors. And given that it's World Statistics Day, I think we'll pull up one of those differences. And that was a Chris Gayle cameo. He didn't again stay till the end. He didn't pick up a 60 or a 70. But what he did do was something we spoke about in the previous innings. Shikhar Dhawan, outstanding 100. What happened at the other end? Nothing. They didn't get a big over, and Punjab got that one big over in the 5th. And I think that gave them the momentum to last them till the end, Lisa.
Yeah, that 5th over by Deshpande, 26 runs. I think everyone was scratching their heads going, Ashwin, please, can he please bowl to Gayle? He's got him out, 5 times before this match. Now it was the 6th. It took him only 2 deliveries. So I'm sure Delhi will actually look back and go, did we get that wrong? And I really do think they went wrong because they also gave Deshpande another over. And in the end, he went for 41 off 2. To me, that's the ball game. If you pick someone else at a different time, he may have gone maybe for 10 or 12, but 26 in that over, you just felt that the momentum just swung to the Punjab side.
Yeah, no matter what happens off the field, Joy, I think when we were doing that report card pre-match of Shreyas Iyer versus KL Rahul as captain, I reckon we were leaning towards either being on the fence, but I think Shreyas gets a little bit of a B grade on that one.
Yeah, I think, but look, again, I don't think it's a decision that the captain nowadays takes alone. This is, the coach, Ponting, they've said, okay, maybe it's a side, maybe it's a smaller side, one side, off-spinner bowling on a particular side. Maybe they've targeted him for the 6th because he's going to bowl from one particular end. All those could be factors, but that over was expensive. And see, that's Gayle. That's your old 41-year-old professional who says, you know what, I'm not going to. This is like candy. This is an early Christmas treat for me. I'm not going to let it pass. And I'm not going to have a 12-run over. Let me milk it for what it's worth. If it was a 12-run over, it wouldn't have changed the game. It was a 25-run over. And for the rest of the game, for the entire rest of the game, Kings 11 were never under run rate pressure. That's what it did.
So even with that, Joy, if they wanted to bowl Ashwin at the other end, then why not go for a Rabada, knowing full well that Punjab, all their runs have been at the top. It's the middle order that's been really quite low, so low in scoring. So that's why I just thought they got that wrong, because they could have gone to other bowlers.
No, they could have. They could have. You are absolutely right. They could have gone to many other bowlers. Even if they had held back Ashwin with 6, they could have done something out there. It's just that they gave Gayle something early that he really relishes, which is not really fast bowling, but reasonable fast bowling which sits up and waits to be hit, and he took full advantage of it. And look, the other thing is that if you see how the way Gayle has been batting throughout all this, he now knows, he's very focused that this is what I can do and this is what I can't do. I'm not going to run very much in the field. I'm not going to save too many ones and twos. I'm not going to run too many ones and twos. But by God, if there's a bowler who's slightly scared of me, I will intimidate him till he can't see where he's going.
It's the personality, really. I mean, we read about the little interaction he had after that famous super over game recently between him and Mayank Agarwal. They had a little chat show and they were revealing what happened when they walked out to bat. Mayank, as openers do, said, okay, who's playing first ball? And Chris looked at him and goes, I'm the universe boss. Who do you think it? So it's that kind of personality he asserted today, and it came off at the end for Punjab.
You could see even how determined he was and how frustrated and annoyed when he got out. So this is actually a key sign for Punjab as they keep moving through. Obviously, another 2 points gets them closer to that top 4. If Christopher Henry Gayle is caring that much, despite scoring 26 off a handful of deliveries, means that he's hungrier and he wants more runs. So that puts them in a really good place.
Certainly does. What about the bowling from the opposition? Because we know that bowling has been the strength for Delhi. They made a little change today. Daniel Sams coming in place of Nokia. You could see it was it was a bit of rust for him, that no ball in the very first over. But otherwise, Tushar Deshpande, after that first over, was given another one, 20.5. And Stoinis came in at a time when pretty much things were running away. So I don't think they look at this bowling card and say it's our best outing. So things to think of for Delhi.
Yeah, 3 for 55 of their 5th and 6th bowlers is a lot of runs, And that's exactly what they've given away, between Tushar Deshpande and them. And I think that's what's unacceptable. The other problem is, if you see Akshar Patel's run, it's not that he's gone. He's gone for 27, which is actually really good. But even 27 is when there is no pressure on the opposition batsman. That means he had no opportunity to actually apply pressure on the batsman because the asking rate was so low that he couldn't restrict them in any way. So it's tough for them to bowl under those circumstances. I think the rest of Delhi did a good deal. I think their 5th bowler really let them down.
I think also with Akshar Patel, we were kind of tracking his speeds. Now, the one ball that he actually turned and gripped was, about 80, in the 80-kilometre mark. Otherwise, he's up to 90. So I actually think he could have gambled a little bit more. They needed wickets. They needed to bowl out Punjab if they were going to win. But he was just kept firing in because they got so caught up with just dot balls, trying to build the pressure, knowing Punjab might falter. But if he was brave enough, he could have slowed it up, got a bit more purchase out of the pitch and enticed the batter to come out, leave their crease, and that may have created more opportunities. So that's probably the only difference I'd like to see with Akshar Patel.
No, I'd love to pick you up in absolutely. The wicket that Ashwin got of Chris Gayle, was because he dared to toss it up. You're absolutely right. The only time they got wickets was, and look, if the run rate is running away from you, the only thing you can do to stop it is take wickets. Dot balls don't work. Wickets work. Dot balls don't. So yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you.
Well, Ashwin versus Gayle, and in fact, even Akshar did it to KL Rahul. The first ball he bowled was fired a little quicker. Lovely cut from KL Rahul, and he thought, here goes, it's going to be another big Rahul innings. But he came back, held it back slightly. Rahul came down the pitch, and that was the end of that. They didn't quite take advantage of it. And as Lisa said, maybe a little bit of what Dhoni tried yesterday. Bowl out Hazelwood, bowl out Deepak Chahar, and see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they come back and the conversations. I mean, a lot of the franchises are putting all of their team discussions on Twitter. So I wonder if we're going to see Delhi's discussion. I have a feeling we won't because they didn't win. But I'd love to be a fly on the wall and to hear the coaching staff give their feedback on the match.
Yeah, well, we'll try and also keep an eye on what the skippers said, and of course the man of the match as things go on. But Joy, just to wrap things up, a little word on the fielding effort. We've talked about it throughout at key points in this tournament, be it drop catches, of course, spectacular efforts, and Punjab have been involved in most of them. But today, Delhi in the field, towards the end, we saw a simple catch. It may not have mattered in the end, but it might have.
No, many other things. First and foremost, I think a serious worry would be Rishabh's keeping, because it was subpar today. It was seriously subpar today. There were a couple of, there was one chance which is the inside edge that went through, but there were a couple of other chances, a couple of buys that he's given away. He wasn't at his sharpest. Look, one can't blame him. You are out for 3-4 matches, coming back can't be easy in a pressure cooker situation. But Rishabh Pant wasn't efficient behind the stumps today, and he'll be the first to admit that he needs to get better. I think he will. But I think also overall, Delhi was just that little bit off the game, off the ball, as it were, And, Prithvi is never the best of fielders, but the rest of them also, they didn't look as if they took the opportunities that Delhi normally does. And that would worry Ponting more than anything else. I think, again, when it comes to this stage in the tournament, when you've won 7 games already, it's not the result. I think what he'll be looking for is the kind of attitude his guys have in the field. So, yeah, that's what he'd probably point out to them, saying, it doesn't matter that you lost, but, look at this fielding, look at this. These are things you better do something about.
Yep, because remember, we keep pointing out to you, no matter whether you think mathematically you're in the top 4, that 1 and 2 is very critical at the end if you want to go ahead and give yourself a second shot at the grand finale on the 10th of November. But in terms of our boost stamina meter, it's not something we only do in the build-up to every game. We look at the game and we try and assess whose performance has been befitting of a mention on our boost stamina meter at the very end of the game. So let's go ahead and find out who it is who makes it to our boost stamina meter, and who could it be but someone who's got back-to-back hundreds. First time in the 13th edition of the tournament, we've had someone doing that. Look at that performance, 106 of 61 deliveries, batting rating outstanding, dot ball percentage 19.67, and we've talked about that earlier. Singles for self and for partner, 2s as well, 6 for self, 2 for partner. So that just shows it's not just about the big hits. And Shikhar Dhawan, we've pointed out, Joy, is not a 6-hitter, which is what makes his innings so creditable.
No, absolutely. 74 runs, if you've run 74 runs on the field, which is what he's effectively run, that's a lot of runs to run and to bat to the very end. I mean, that's important. And given the fact that he was basically the show today, Maxwell calls himself the big show, but rarely do you have a guy scoring 100 and the next highest score being 14. And he was it. I mean, he kept Delhi in the game. Nobody else did. And that's the other thing that Ponting would probably look at and say that, guys, when somebody's going so well, you don't need to get 50s and 60s and 70s, but two good 25s and 30s, and this could have been a 180 score. And that's what they'd be talking about in the dressing room today. But the other interesting thing is just going back to what you said. Delhi in 2010 was 7-3. Needed 1 game to qualify, 1 win to qualify. They lost 4 in a row. They tied for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th place, and they were out in run rate. So if I was Ricky Ponting, I'd tell them that, look, guys, do not even go there. Finish this early. Don't allow this to sit.
Yeah, we could be not even talking about losing out in 1st and 2nd. If that kind of a run comes to them, it might just be even more of a worry. So that's as far as Delhi and Punjab are concerned. Let's also look at our My 11 Circle ultimate team of the day. No prizes for guessing. It's going to be Shikhar Dhawan as captain. Who else makes the grade? Nicholas Puran with that fabulous half century gets in as vice captain. KL Rahul briefly was there with that fabulous catch, and of course started off with the big 6. But Maxwell, he'll be very relieved to make the ultimate team of the day, because this probably might just have been a last chance scenario for Maxwell, but he bowled his 4 overs, batted well enough to take Punjab over the line. We also have a champion who chose well enough. All probability had Shikhar Dhawan as his captain. My 11th circle champion of the day from Pune, Swapnin Pavle, 286 for 5. There you go. So if he's from Pune, I guess, Lisa, Pavle, is that how you'd get the L to be pronounced, Miss
Don't
Sthalekar?
even ask me, please. What, shall I start calling you Sanjay? Come on. Leave me alone. It's so early in the morning.
Fair enough. I just saw the winner from Pune, and I just thought I had to take.
You got
that
excited,
opportunity.
didn't you? Yes,
Yes,
okay,
and
all right.
he had an L in his last name, Pavle. I haven't perfected the L yet, but I'll get there someday. Let's look
Yeah.
at the points table. The points table is next. Oh, it's going to go on all night now. There we go. It's called the points table. Delhi on top, just on top after 10 games, 4 to play. They don't want to let anything slip and get people overlapping and jumping over them, leapfrogging them. Remember, Mumbai and Bangalore, they'll all have chances coming up to get to 14, to get to 16. And look at Punjab on 8 points from 10 games, but it's a lot different from the 2 points they had not too long ago, Joy. So looking a lot healthier now for the men from the northernmost franchise.
I think they made a run, and they've got enough to hold on to, even if this run is not completely successful. They have enough to say this is a team that could threaten next year. We have an auction. Let's pick up one more decent death overs bowler, and we are done. Let's not tinker anything more. We've got enough firepower. Look, they have no lack of firepower. And the other thing I think it teaches them is you cannot ignore experience of a person like Gayle. Look what a difference he's made for them. So whatever it is, you drop Gayle at your own peril. You think he's past the game. Every time you think he's past the game, he comes back to remind you exactly how big a mistake you're making. So yeah, that's the one thing I look at.
Certainly is. Points in the bag for Punjab. They're going upwards. Delhi still sitting pretty, but are starting to look over their shoulders. A couple of the teams they will be looking at, yes, they will be in action very, very soon. Let's see what we have coming up next for you. Kolkata versus Bangalore. We mentioned both these teams, and they will be chasing Delhi very hard. They will have watched tonight's game and been delighted by Delhi not going further and further away into the distance, into the desert. They're still visible. They're just 2 points ahead of them. But for these two franchises, I think Kolkata, a little bit more important, Lisa, for them in terms of where they've been mentally in their last couple of games.
Yeah, Kolkata are an interesting side because, they've probably put all of their eggs into Andre Russell and Pat Cummins, and they haven't necessarily fired. And in comes Lockie Ferguson, and he just goes, "What's so hard, guys? I've just picked up 5 wickets in a match." So that will certainly give them confidence. But the real question is that middle order. They've chopped and changed that middle order so much that I just hope with Owen Morgan taking over that they can find that fluency that has seen them win. And the bulk of their runs has always come at the top, as does most of the teams. And if Tripathi and Shubman Gill, another player probably who we're questioning about his strike rate, his intent to go on and score big but quickly, it's going to be a tight battle with these two because RCB is starting to look really comfortable out in the middle, especially with AB and Virat firing.
Yeah, the Lockie Ferguson factor, Joy, they don't want to let it distract them from saying that, wow, what a find, what a performance. They've got to address the other areas.
Yeah, I think their batting is the issue, and their big issue will be that I think any attack now looking at Tripathi and Gill as opening batsmen knows who to target where. I think they know where to bowl to Gill. I think they know where to bowl to Tripathi. The question is whether they, again, to use that horrible word, execute their plans or not is a different matter altogether. But I think it's a well-known secret that there is a particular line in length you need to bowl to Gill to keep him quiet up in the early overs. And that's something that will worry Kolkata because they need to change that. The second is it is World Statistics Day, so the only one thing I will put up is the fact that the odds of Andre Russell again failing for the 7th or 8th time or the 9th time in a row is is getting lower and lower by the day. The odds that, every match that he'll fail is quite high.
But Joy, fail or no fail will be dependent on if he's actually on the field.
True.
That is true. But I think if Andre Russell, the other thing interesting is that if Sunil Narayan is fit, does he walk back in? For me, he does. Whether it's at the cost of Andre Russell or not is a different matter altogether. But does Sunil Narayan walk back into the side in Abu Dhabi on a large ground where he knows exactly how fast to bowl or how slow to bowl? He walks in for me.
Well, let's have a look at the squad and see the options, because remember Sunil Narayan's been missing for a bit. Andre Russell, not the best sight in the world to see him bowl that final over, just limping from a couple of steps. So we are assuming, let's assume for the moment, that he doesn't make it into that 11. Tom Banton didn't do enough to sort of push the door down, Lisa. So are they starting to think differently now?
Oh, I think Joy and I were calling for Sunil Narayan to come back even before he was kind of cleared, that you have to bring him into the side simply because of the overs he bowls. But also, he's a bit like Gayle as well. Either he comes off or he doesn't. And if he does come off, then KKR are in a very good position. So, I think he's the only change. And I reckon it's time to go Andre Russell, which means Pat Cummins gets another game. And he's someone that probably hasn't fired as well. He's now sitting on 3 wickets, but that's just not enough from your strike bowler. I think that's the only change that they'll make if Russell is injured.
Who knew we'd talk about an Aussie and a Kiwi going hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, bowling in tandem, trying to destroy the opposition, Lisa?
Yeah, they're used to fast pitches, and Lockie Ferguson is no mug, and neither is Pat Cummins. So, fast bowling cartel, those guys tend to stick together like glue. So no doubt they've learnt a lot. And even though they've only played one game together, I reckon there's a tight bond there already.
There certainly is. I wonder if he's going to do anything about the moustache, Joy.
That was the battle of the moustaches for me. Warner versus Lockie Ferguson was where it was. And I just have to tell you that I have complete and utter disrespect for it. I mean, both those moustaches are like caterpillars. They need to be somewhere else.
Yeah, the only thing that was worse was something Chris Lynn tried not too long ago.
Oh, yes. Terrible. Terrible.
But yeah, okay, just hold on. I think I need to talk about my favorite topic. After the 80s mullet, I think I'm seeing the worst hairstyles in this IPL. I have seen some atrocious ones.
And they're all bogan Australians. Embarrassing. Marcus Stoinis. But see, Marcus Stoinis, Pattinson, they're weird cats, and they love it and they embrace it. They certainly give us something to talk about other than the cricket, don't they? But very embarrassed to call myself an Australian with those two rocking those hairdos. And Adam Zampa's not that far behind as well. He's got a little bit of a mullet thing going on.
God, mullet.
Yeah, I think for me, the vote for the worst goes to Dale Steyn. That's why he got dropped. He hasn't played since.
Oh, right. Yeah, he does too. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Dale Steyn's team, because he doesn't make the grade, but certainly 11 others will make the grade tomorrow against Kolkata. There you see Dale Steyn pushed to the right column. He's not going to be coming back to the left column at all. Zampa's in there as well, so that's quite a competition for the Barbers from Bangalore. But this team is now starting to look so good after Chris Morris has come in, Joy.
It does, but I would still look at taking out Udana, putting in Zampa, maybe swapping it around, getting Moeen Ali in, and just getting another Indian. Even if Shahbaz Ahmed has to sit out, and that's unfortunate because he's a terrific cricketer, but just get that extra experience in. Udana is not doing enough. I mean, again, I say that if you're a foreign pro and you're one of 4 players, you have to come to the party. And Udana, for me, just hasn't come to the party. He's done nothing, in my opinion, that Umesh Yadav can't do, any of those other guys can't do.
Lisa, Aaron Finch?
There's question marks on him, isn't there? The last 6 innings, 8, 13, 2, 47, 20 and 14. That's just not enough from him. But just as another player to come in for Udana, instead of Zampa, I was thinking maybe Moeen Ali, simply because of the amount of left-handers as well for KKR. So I think that's an option, and it also strengthened their middle order We've seen him in the past in IPLs perform that role really well, and I think Moeen Ali he's only played the one game, so it might be a chance to bring him in, but it's going to be interesting because you've got Finch, who hasn't really been firing. You've got Padikkal, who's been a little bit slow, a little bit like Shubman Gill as well. So the youngsters just haven't kind of kicked into that gear. And then obviously you've got the class of Virat and AB. I was talking, I think last time, Joy, we were mentioning I still want Virat to open. I just think him batting all the way through the innings, his numbers are outstanding. He can time his innings and then he can go ballistic at the end. I still think that's the best place for him to bat.
Yeah, I totally agree. If he has to bat, his opening will just change the way that thing looks. It'll take pressure off thing. And I think Padikkal is going through what is like, what we call the sophomore slump. Once you're there and discovered and you're known, and then you suddenly is now other teams are planning for him. So he's not getting his sort of getaway shots, and that's the problem. They're cramping him. They know that, okay, he's not giving enough space for this shot that he hits. They're not giving it to him at all. And that's interesting. I mean, so that's the thing that all these youngsters will now discover, that when you get good enough to play at this level of the game, guys are going to research you, analysts are going to see you through, and then bowlers are going to target you. That's where you need to lift your game to the next level. So it's fascinating.
Certainly is, with all the personnel we've talked about. If I have to put both of you on the spot at this early stage, who starts favourite for you? It's a big clash with the points table the way it is. Joy?
At this point, I think I would put Bangalore ahead, just because they have a just slightly more settled batting order and just a couple of bowlers that are doing well. I fear for two things. I fear for the young Kolkata fast bowlers and the young Kolkata top three. These are the two places which are weak points for me for Kolkata as well.
Lisa, it's another first on World Stats Day.
Yes, I was actually shocked when he said Bangalore. I was like, am I hearing right? There's something wrong. I'm actually going Bangalore as well. I think I agree with the points that Joy has mentioned. I just think the two players are real class that will score the bulk of their runs.
Yeah, well, maybe if I'm a little bit closer to home, I should be leaning towards the men in purple, because I'm sitting there, I'm in the midst of it. The festive season is upon us, and I think they'll just hear the sounds of the festivities and they'll be lifted by that, will Kolkata, and they'll get over the line over Bangalore. So while I've distracted you enough, now it's time to get the answer to our Joy Factor question on World Stats Day.
Okay, here's the question. What connects a second person of Chinese origin to play in first-class cricket in Australia? A cricketer who made his test debut against India in '98, a person who worked as a pig handler in the Philippines, and a cricketer who played his last ODI against India in 2001. It was actually in Vizag, and it's a rock band called Six and Out. Yes, I think Lisa knew that, didn't you?
Yes, I was so excited because as soon as you said Chinese origin, I was like, Richard Cheekwee, I'm thinking the band, and I was like, yeah, I've got this one. This is like the only one I will ever get, Joy, so I'm very happy.
But
well done,
Lisa. Have you heard the band at all?
Sorry, have I ever listened to them? No.
They're not bad, actually. They have this version. They're quite interesting. You must listen to one of them.
I have listened to them, but I must tell you, my answer was leaning more towards John F. Kennedy, because I was thinking of the old batting order.
Okay, Lee Harvey
Oswald, and I'm thinking the answer is one person who's connected is John F. Kennedy. So I was a little bit off, but nonetheless, let's find out who our winner was or is for this particular question. And it's Chitran, Crick Chitran. Okay, that's going to be a trend, right? A Crick Rohit, Crick Chitran. And maybe he thinks if you put Crick in your handle, you'll slip ahead of everyone.
I think Rohit's getting a bit of a fan club out there. And, there are these mini Rohits who are sort of emerging from the atmosphere. Fabulous.
Or it's his alternate handle. And he's just come up with like 9 different ones. They make fun of me. They don't like me. They'll throw me off the show. They accuse me of being Joy. And then now here I am with a different handle. I'm Crick Chitran. That's a nice name to find. We'll soon find out who you are. Don't worry. Well done. Good answer. Thank you very much, Lisa. Yes, I think it's time for you to get to bed or have breakfast.
The choice is yours. This is early. This is early for me, so I'm winning.
Well, yeah, so I forgot you've got used to that weekend mayhem. Fair enough, Lisa. We've let you off. We've let you off the hook. Thank you very much, Joy.
Thanks.
It's an early finish. It's a finish that will be very relieving for the men from Punjab in the North Indian derby. Plenty to play for when Kolkata take on Bangalore. And of course, we'll be there. My 11th Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.